our, what is it, December 30th, 2020, wrapping it up strong.
That's right. Very strong. Hello, Ed Isola.
Hello, Mr. Jesse. How goes it?
It goes very well. Um, Interesting year. I would say it was, I mean, at least from a marketing perspective, this year was like amazing for me. It was like my best year ever.
I feel nice plug right there.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, what did I say? I didn't mean to say that.
no, I feel weird saying that though, because I've been talking to people as well. And it's like, how was 2020? It's like, well, weird, but marketing wise, like better than ever.
Right.
So it's like, I think that becomes what we're going to dive into today is like the groundwork we've laid the last couple years. It's like obviously not dependent on going to do shows, and I think that was a big plus for a lot of independents.
Absolutely agree. It's, people had budgets that they would have spent at bars and in venues. And I think it became easy for them to justify like vinyl purchases this year. And that was true for me. I was buying like a record a week because it was like, oh, this is cheaper than if I were going out all the time. And I
Yeah,
could,
you didn't have anywhere to spend your money, so you had to buy other stuff.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me it was good because from a marketing perspective, I think a lot of people go out and do shows, do tours, which is great. But I felt like I had so much more time to brainstorm cool marketing ideas and implement them because we weren't going and doing shows, which isn't to say like, shows should never come back, but it was like, all right, we can't go. So now we have all this time to really like expand on it. So I feel like something people will hopefully get from today is that this is not dependent on touring, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of positives that come out of developing the buddy system and diving into it and really buying into it that allow you to, whether or not you're doing shows, still grow your fan base as you want.
Yeah. Yeah. And to clarify what this ground report will be about, because I realize we haven't said so yet, is we have kind of been in parallel in a lot of ways, actually more ways than I even realized, which is that we kind of, got into Entrepreneur as customers early on. We kind of got hired within a similar realm. And we also did launches. We kind of have a lot of parallel marketing campaigns. Like we did an Ultimate album launch around the same time. And then 2 years later, we did a pre-order and then another launch. And it was like, we have a lot to kind of mirror off each other, especially given that our stuff is so different. So we're gonna today, for the benefit of everyone, just dig into two our launches that we did, our first album launch and then our second album launch, and how kind of going through those two launches has affected results.
Yeah, it's been really cool because like you said, we have very different music, but we know each other now well, obviously. But like starting out, we got into the community at the same time. We started at the company at the same time. Like you were saying, all these launches and things that we've been doing and experimenting on our own. Funny enough, they really lined up. A lot of the campaigns happening at the same time. So it's cool 3-4 years down the road now to be like, oh, look at all these things we've done. And oh, look, this worked for both of us at the same time, different genres. So
right.
Yeah, man, I've been looking forward to this since we planned on doing it. And I'm excited to just dive deep into album launches and all the good stuff around them.
Yeah, without a doubt. Smile says, when you were doing your album launch, what were the more effective ways you got fans to interact with your daily content leading up to the album? Well, I think we will address that as we go along. If you want to just keep an eye out, Smiles, I think that's the user.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. I think we probably both have some good insight into ways to get people to interact more and more, especially as you lead up to the launch. So we'll definitely make sure we touch on that. But I think as a starting place, we wanted to just dive into kind of the beginning of it all and touch on our launches, which were what, 2017, late 2017-ish.
Oh, yours was 2017.
We did our first fan finder in October 2017, I'm pretty sure. And then I think yours was maybe the following year?
Well, I launched my first fan finder late 2017, but did my first launch October 2018.
Okay, nice. So we're going to be kind of looking at this first launch of like Jesse said, he launched his fan finder. And let's see, I need my mic to go up more.
Yeah, guy with the short hair.
The guy with the short hair, which I'm assuming is not Jesse.
Right.
Boost your levs, dude. That's what we need to do.
Boost your levs.
We're gonna boost those levs. Here, I'll just bring it closer to you.
All right, nice.
There, it's right up on you. Are we? Ooh, that's close.
Smiles, is that good? We're gonna continue talking as if that's good.
Yeah.
And I will project my voice more as well.
Perfect.
But yeah, so this first launch, I think we're going to walk through. Jesse said he launched his fan finder in October of 2017, and then the actual album launch in 2018.
Yeah.
So there's probably some good stuff there you can touch on what you were doing in between.
Yeah.
And then my launch was a little more compact in the fact that we launched our fan finder in August of 2017, and the album launch in October 2017.
Okay.
So it was like a 3-month window, and you had kind of a year window.
Yes.
So if you want to dive into your first launch, let's get into it.
Yeah. So I think for me with the first launch, it's interesting we bring up this time difference because it's actually very important to what I'm going to say, which I assume is going to be different over the numbers you report. But for example, my first launch, what I had done is I had ran fan finders for a year pretty much before I did any permission. I did 4 different fan finders. They were all pretty different. And I ran a total of $1,518 in fan finder over a year. So I kind of just straight up invested in intro and education for a year, kind of just getting used to fan finders, seeing what stuck, getting better at running them, pulling people aside in the comments and the messages and just pushing out videos for a year. Right. And I think that helped me out a bit. And I was getting, across all those videos, I was getting 75% views for 22 cents. So some were, as an average, so some were more, some were less. But that was pretty much my whole first year of marketing was just fan finders. And looking back, I'm glad I actually did it this way. $1,500 over the year is not untenable. That's $100 and some a month if you were to split it up. And yeah, I say this to a lot. I say this a lot to indies when they're saying kind of, when should they run permission? And I say just lean into intro for an education for maybe longer than you expect.
Something there I want to ask real quick is like, what were you? So you started that was your first fan finder, right? In October 2017.
Yeah.
And you ran them. What were you doing between like that fan finder launch and the album launch that was keeping people engaged? Because sometimes I feel like I see fan finder launches, it's going well, and it's 6 months until the album launch rather, and people will go cold. So I feel like that's probably something you were doing really well in terms of engaging people.
Yeah, well, I think it's a few things. For one, the fact that I ran 4 fan finders, I think was helpful because there's some natural education that comes with a new video, right? Because the warm audience is going to catch it. And, over the course of that year, my warm audience had seen my output of like every few months, this new fan finder was coming out. And I think that on itself was doing a lot. So like iterating on intro has a little bit of an education effect, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I remember, it's funny, I had this like very lucid moment of when I ran a fan finder and I got like a few thousand, 75% video viewers. I remember just being like, what kind of ads can I just run to this audience just to see? Like, it was just like fun for me to play with my warm audience. Like, should I send them this image? Should I send them and I think there was a bit of education that was coming through that approach of like, let me just play around with retargeting. Other than that, I mean, it was all about for me, like comments and just replying to comments is huge.
Yeah. I've seen the same thing. Like giving people one-to-one attention, I think is the biggest thing. Like posting consistently, like you were saying, whether or not you know what you're posting, like where you're like, is it the image, is it the video? Just like posting and like continuing so people see new content and actually talking to people. I feel like that's something that we'll get into more probably, but that has worked really well in terms of just engagement, which then probably feeds into successful launches.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so the thing, and this is because I'm going to get into my opt-in phase in a moment, but one thing that I think indies can look out for, it's really hard to nail down, and it's kind of just like this instinctual thing. But I think like a marker of when you've educated enough is kind of when you have these fans popping up. You have these names popping up of like,
Yeah.
there's so many fans I could list off that I just know because they are in my Facebook posts. And it's just like suddenly you become this like thing for this fan. Like you become this cultural pillar for them where they just talk about you and to you as if like, oh, you're this tentpole musician in my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like once you see a couple of those, it's like, okay, you've really done a lot to bolster your initial base here.
Yeah.
But when it came to opt-ins for my first launch, so again, a year of running Fan Finders, now we're in October of 2018. I did an opt-in phase for a month to get them into an Ultimate Album launch. I did $322 in spend on the opt-in campaign. I got 124 leads, and that was $2.60 per lead, and it was the opt-in page was converting at just 10.5%. So if I increase that just a bit, I would have had a significantly lower cost because $2.60 is not untenable. It's like, it's not the best cost, but it's not like it doesn't put you out,
Yeah.
So and then I also did a ManyChat campaign for the same amount of spend. I got 212 subscribers through there, and those were $1.53 per. Yeah. Some of them I grabbed their emails from. But more of them, and this was pre broadcasts being canceled.
Yeah.
And so I was actually broadcasting them the launch content and broadcasting them the sales offer. So I had a total of 336 leads between ManyChat and email for about $645.
Nice. I mean, that's awesome, especially for like a first launch. Corinne says, get them leads.
we try.
Nice. So the Fan Finders, there's a couple of them going on. The album one. Did you do anything like I feel like a question I always hear is, what do you do for your opt-in creative and copy? Did you do anything that was out of the ordinary or like out of the box crazy, or did you do pretty straightforward, like, I'm doing this cool thing and here's a selfie video or a picture?
Yeah. So I definitely didn't do anything crazy out of the box, but I did. There are some like tips and tricks when it comes to opt-in ads that I think are so helpful, which is just making it a little bit episodic. And by that, I mean like adding motion or moving between rooms, right? I think that's big. And then I had some, another thing is just referential material. So like my opt-in ad for this was I was laying down on the floor and I had a bunch of my favorite vinyl records around my head, but a lot of these records were in the Fan Finder targeting. So a lot of these people knew like, oh, of Montreal, that makes sense. I like them too. Or like they knew these kind of other bands that sounded sort of like me. So there's that. And I also had sunglasses on. So it started there, and then like I got up and I like take the sunglasses off, and then like I moved to this swivel chair, and like there's some swiveling happening, and I'm referencing the I'm screen capping the Fan Finders. So just small things that it's like it's really not complicated, and it but
that's a really good idea about the vinyls with similar artists around you.
Yeah.
Did you call out and be like, if you like these artists, you might like me? Did you say that or no?
No, what was funny is that I just in the comments people were like, "Oh, that everything record is I can't believe you like that as well." So there was just some of that was happening naturally.
That's such a smart way to be like, if you like this artist, you'll
Right.
probably like me without coming out and saying it. Like that's genius. No, that's awesome. So yeah, I mean, like the retargeting ads seem straightforward. It's not like some high produced crazy video. It's like
Absolutely.
like simple and just telling people what they want.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of like your actual album launch, what was that like? And then what were the sales like?
So I did it was an 8-track album. I did 8 days, one for each song. The content pages for each day was pretty straightforward. It was like a vlog video, the lyrics, any related videos, like performances or just anything kind of, any kind of video content related. I just threw it in there. If I had any live versions recorded, put them on SoundCloud unlisted and they'd be there. I had a gear list as well, for like everything that went to the making of that song. And then, also like a journal entry, which is basically like a typed out version of the vlog in case they wanted to, I thought when it comes to content pages, I like to provide something in like every medium in case someone's like on the subway and it's like, I just want to dig into this a little bit. They can find something to ingest on the fly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was 8 days with a sales offer at the end on the 9th day. And I generated 33 orders with a total revenue of $1,330 for an average order value of $40.30, which is very high. And actually, the ROI, so the return on investment of just that revenue, if we even apply it to like the really old fan finders, was 0.61, which I'm actually pretty happy about. It paid for more than half of my marketing budget over the past year. Just that one campaign. That was pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think that's like a good thing to say too, because even I think this way, I'm sure you think this way, but it's like a lot of times I feel inclined to say, if I don't make all my money back from this marketing campaign, what a failure,
I know.
This was terrible. But in reality, it's like, okay, you spent half of what you thought you were going to spend to now have a fan base of people that like care about what's going on.
Yeah. It's major.
So no, that's cool. And like the other thing I take away from what you were saying that sounds similar to my first launch was that you kind of knew what you were doing, right? I feel like, not to say you didn't know, but like you kind of knew, and like you were figuring out as you went, and you were like, well, I think this might be cool. Let me try it. Or, you were working within the structure of an album launch, but also doing what you thought was cool and what you thought your fans would like, which I think is so important to just like stress, because listening to you talk, I hear the same things with my launch. Just like, it's not a cookie cutter thing as much as it's like opt-in page, content pages, that kind of stuff. It's very much like, okay, try things, see what you feel is working, what you think might be cool, and adapt and go from there, which I think is like cool to hear you talk about, because it is so fluid.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's interesting. Like, on one hand, there's always the audience component, and like they may eat up anything you're doing. But then there's obviously like just how good the content and the offers are. And so just making sure that you're not stuck. You don't get stuck just being like, I have an audience. They'll eat it up, even if it's kind of subpar. Making sure you're always pulling that along. But yeah, I want to hear about the same kind of synopsis for your first launch.
Absolutely. I think real quick, that's such a good point too, to just like underline, is that it is fluid. The album launches can be what you want them to be, but making sure you have like top notch quality of, the music you're giving them, the content you're providing, the pages looking clean. Like, you were not an expert page builder at that point, I would guess. I was not an expert page builder. And like, it took us longer, but making sure you have this like top tier quality is so important because people may not know you, but they won't know that you're grassroots. Like they're going to judge you based off of what they see that you give them. I feel like, so if you're presenting high quality pages and videos, it just makes you look more credible.
Yeah.
Which is something I feel like we got a lot of feedback on. But yeah, so we launched our first fan finder in August of 2017, and we had 3 videos that we tested, but we ended up running 1. So our timeline was way more condensed than like the year that you had. Ours was fan finder launches in early August. Opt-ins started like, I want to say the very last week of August, and then the campaign went live the first week of October.
Whoa.
So it was.
Wait, your opt-in phase was like 2 months long?
It was like more like 5 weeks. So like last week of August, and then all of September, and then like October 2nd it started.
Got it.
So it was like 3 or 4 weeks of fan finder traffic, 5 weeks of opt-ins, and then 10 days of the actual experience. So we did test 3 videos, 3 fan finders. We did like the $100 test for each of them. One of them was doing much better than the other. So then we pretty much just put all our budget to that. So I think we ended up spending about like $700 on the first fan finder and like 100 and 150 on the other 2.
Okay.
But that was like our big thing. And our idea was like, let's find a video that works. And since we're going to do this so condensed, like, let's just run that video as much as we can and make sure we're getting traffic on it. So from a fan finder perspective, we really just put all our budget on one video that was running really well. We were getting like 10 cents per 75% view, like 10 cents per 75% view, which was good. But we were also seeing a lot of comments. So that's somewhere so opt-in wise, like we were pulling people from the comments in by making sure we were responding to everyone. And something I thought was good that we did the first time accidentally and more intentionally the second time was have our opt-in page ready to go when we launched the fan finder, so that when we were doing this condensed window, as people were commenting like, yo, this is sick, we'd be like, awesome, we're giving away our album for free if you want to check it out.
Right.
So we pulled a lot of people in that way. That was our fan finder kind of phase. And then between when somebody would see the fan finder and sign up for the album, or like, the album launch went live in October, we were pretty much just doing 2 to 3 live videos a week on Facebook. Like, I didn't know at the time what a green light warmth campaign was. I didn't really know about video view funnels. So it was like, this video is running and we're going live so you can talk with us.
Yeah.
And that's all we did. And it's like, it was so simple and it was easy to manage. It was just making sure we were consistently doing it. And same thing that you were touching on is what we started to see, where after a week or 2, you start seeing the same people drop in the comments and message you. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm talking to you right now. And then you end the live video and you're like, what the heck? That's wild that somebody said that,
Yes. Yeah.
So, I mean, so fan finder, that was pretty much what we did. Nurturing and engagement between the fan finder and the launch was just live videos. We might have done one small like CD giveaway for a week or something like that, but really nothing there, minus that and like a couple of nurturing emails in between. And then numbers wise, we ran the 3 videos. We're getting the views for like 9-10 cents per 75% view on the fan finder. Opt-ins, we pulled in about 850 to 900 emails.
Wow.
Which was good. But like something that was awesome about it was that, I think we ended up spending about like $1,400 total on the campaign. And I think about 900 of that was on fan finder and the remainder was on the opt-ins.
Yeah.
And like where we really saw people coming in was with the comments. We were dropping our opt-in page for every comment, right? So people were coming in from there, probably pulled in a couple hundred people. Every live video would have the opt-in link on it. And then obviously retargeting ads. But our email signups we were getting for like, I think about $2 per email signup. So it wasn't like some killer cost per email. It was really a combination of responding to comments, responding to messages, dropping multiple posts a week on our page about this thing's about to happen. It's going to be really cool. You should join it. And the retargeting ads. So from an ad perspective, we were getting like $2 leads. But then when you start going all these other routes, that cost comes down because you're getting, free leads.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's one quick sidebar is like, for everyone, like the 100% of your opt-ins it would be very strange if 100% of your opt-ins came from one ad. Like,
Yeah. Well, just to expand on that real quick, like we had a client at IndieX who we were doing a launch with, and we did the routine of fan finder, the condensed window, like what I just walked through, and it was going really well. But the retargeting ads, it was like, okay, they have 250 people signed up for this experience when their fan finder and all their other metrics should have been way higher. And the disconnect there was that they weren't engaging with people. And a week before the launch, they're like, well, like we don't have, like, why don't we have 800 people in our launch? I was like, well, you know what you guys should do this weekend is go respond to every single comment on your videos and like see what happens. And they did over the weekend. It's like Monday, they have like 700 people signed up for it. It's just crazy because I think that a big disconnect is, okay, if we run retargeting ads, we're going to get signups. Whereas more, it's like, maybe not,
Yeah. Yes. Without a doubt.
So
you had 800 leads or something, you said?
Yeah, we ended up with like 850 people signed up, which was cool.
Amazing.
And then real quick, because I know we want to get into the meat of the second launches to wrap this up.
Yeah.
We ran 10 days. What you were saying, we had an email go out daily. We didn't do ManyChat. We just did strictly email, and we had, emails go out daily with a content page. It was like a little blurb kind of setting the stage and be like, here's day one of the party that you're at, or, the first hour. And then we give away the audio. We give away a YouTube video, a lyric video, some copy, like you were saying, so people could read what the song's about. And then like a piece of bonus content that was maybe a live performance video, or at that point we didn't have live performance videos. So we did like MTV cribs of my apartment, that kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
Just like throwing stuff in there.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, we ended up pulling in about 10% sales rate. So like 85, 90 orders.
Yeah.
I think that our average order rate was like $28, something like that. 30.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. So we ended up making back almost 2x on our initial.
Wow.
Which was great, and it's like, was a little wild that happened.
Yeah.
But that was kind of our first launch in a nutshell.
So great.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
So I think that kind of sets a nice baseline for what we really wanted to dive into, which was our second album launches, which like that is the look at Jesse and Eddie just starting off learning marketing, not only just learning marketing, but also just starting fan bases. Like I didn't have an email list or anything when we started that campaign. Like, we made the Facebook page, we made the email list, and we started it. So like that's like the beginning. And then I think it's going to be cool to look at 3 years later what's going on both with fan bases and second album launches.
Right. So you want me to go first?
Yeah. You want to dive into your second launch?
Yeah. So we, I guess we both. So we were both going to do a second launch this year. 3 years later for you, 2 years later for me. And we did, before we did that launch, which was going to kind of, cycle, pull in the warm audience into the list if they weren't already and get them warmed up on the record. We were going to do a pre-order to people that we already won over in our ecosystem. So all of the emails from the first launch, all the customers from the first launch, and whatever people we grabbed along the way between then and the pre-order. So I just want to talk about real quick, but what happened between that first launch, when that first launch ended, and how I arrived at this pre-order. And what I was doing for all of 2019, so I launched at the end of 2018. Right after that launch, I started a podcast. and I was doing weekly podcast episodes. I don't think I missed like maybe 2 or 3 weeks in the year. And I was sending an email every week with that podcast. Other than that, I was doing a lot of shows. I was doing a lot of local shows. I don't think I really toured in 2019, but I did a lot of Nashville stuff. So a lot of my budget was just going towards show marketing. But I was also grabbing up emails at those shows as well. So through doing all of that, I'm trying to remember if I did any new fan finders. I don't really know that I did, honestly. Oh, I did grab some fan finders at the end of the year from a live show we did. So I ran those as fan finders. Otherwise, it was just emails every week, podcasts every week, and a lot of show marketing and just grabbing emails as I went along. I emerged, all of that just put me at a place where I had just 712 emails in my list. Like I had 400 after the launch. I only gained like 300 all year, but they were being, unsubscribed if they fell out, and they were getting intensely engaged like every week. And it was just email engagement for a year, pretty much. So then I did a pre-order, which basically offered everything the launch would have 4 months before it would come out. And it was just, hey, this is for you before anyone else. You can grab all of this now if you want. Won't ship for a while, but just this is the announcement. Here's where you can get it. So there's 712 leads. For 4 months, like before the launch, I had a couple phases. I had like emailing the customers and giving them 2 weeks of shopping, then the non-customers on the list, giving them a week, and then Greenlight warmth boosting, kind of indefinitely. And then every so often I was kind of putting some ads out there to try to, kick up the sales and being like, this is going out of stock soon. Like we're almost out of shirts or whatever. Or this launch is coming up, and then it'll be, all bets are off kind of thing. And so over the course of those 4 months, I was basically in a pre-order phase, and I generated 140 orders for $3,348 in revenue. So that's an average order value of $24. And that's just sending like 10 or so emails about it and running maybe $100 of retargeting spend for 4 months to generate that.
It's crazy too to think about the fact that like it's hard to reconcile this in your head, but those sales obviously stemmed from the first album launch. So like in a way, you know what I mean? Like that's almost directly related to that first album launch. Like those were the same people you just said, minus the 300 extra emails. So it's like, it really builds on itself. Not that you're going to be like, oh, look at the return on the first album launch is this also, but it really is included in what you're looking at. So it's like patience with making the return, because you just doubled your initial money, or actually like what, 3 times whatever you put on the first album launch.
Right.
With the second thing, without really doing anything minus making a new offer and CD.
Yeah. Yep. That is absolutely right. Like, that's something you need to put in perspective, which I hadn't even really thought of, is like every time you profit, it is actually applying to your overall ROI from years past. Like the year that you just lost all year, you are now paying back. Which is because it is from the seeds of that investment. Like those people are still around. And definitely like the 2 biggest spenders on this, like they had put down like $150 orders in the pre-order or something. Jeez. They didn't buy in the first launch, but they kind of got hammered in between the launches, which is interesting. So that pre-order phase was long. It was from May to September. And then I started opt-ins for a launch where I was going to take, my Greenlight my warm ecosystem, get them into email if they weren't, and put them through a launch and hopefully inspire them to buy. Because what's interesting about the pre-order is that, it's not really enticing to a colder fan. Like, hey, get in on this thing that's not coming out for a while, and, you just have to trust me. The album's going to be good. Like, they don't have that trust yet. So I think the launch is good to kind of launder that fan into being like, I see what's great about you now. And I'm ready to buy. Now, so I had ran fan finders, or just one fan finder this year. I put $1,392 into it over the course of almost all year. I kind of ran it like almost all year. And then I did an opt-in campaign, and this was pretty interesting to me. Did an opt-in campaign just on emails, spent $331 on that campaign, got 206 leads for a cost per lead of $1.61. So significantly improved that. My conversion rate on the page was 25%.
It was what, 10% you said the first time?
Yeah. And
So
the lead cost dropped by $1. So I think there's a couple things there. Like, obviously my skills have leveled up between the first and the second time, but I also had, you just have trust, and you have like brand loyalty, and there's people who maybe have witnessed so much of me by now, and they just know, like, when I'm in their newsfeed, I'm doing this thing where like I present this way, or it's entertaining in this way. And I think part of that contributes to just like, oh, this opt-in campaign, like, people want in because they trust me as that newsfeed guy at that point.
I think a real quick thing to interject right there is like what you just said, the trust and the patience for the brand loyalty and the development. Like, I couldn't understand when we did our first launch. I was like, why aren't more people opting in via the ads? And it's like, okay, well, your Facebook page has 800 likes on it, and you have no email list. None of your videos look legit. And I think what you're getting at is that just struggle through the first launch and do the best that you can, because you'll get better, your skills will get better, and people will start to trust you. And then you get to like the second launch, and it's infinitely better than the first one, just because what you're presenting looks better. And also people are now, like you said, you're the newsfeed guy. People are comfortable seeing your face. It's like, okay, well, I'm actually going to listen to what Jesse's saying because I've seen his face 1,000 times the past year.
Yeah. Yeah. So this tenure vibe is hard to explain. But it's part of what this ground report is about, is like, if you have the patience and the work ethic to do 2 launches to do this for 3 years and do 2 launches, you'll see a crazy lift on the second launch.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was opt-ins. Now here's what's really interesting. And I think this will be kind of my key takeaway for a lot of the audience with this ground report, is that my opt-ins went great. My affirmation on just this launch was actually not that great. I only generated 17 orders from those 350 leads it ended up being. The total revenue was $317. The average order was about $18. And so I basically paid for the opt-in campaign on that one. Now my takeaway there was, like, with my first launch, I was just doing one point of sale, right? There was like one offer, one moment, whether you were old or had been following me or just came in for the launch, like, they had to buy at that moment. Doing the pre-order as well as the launch, I think I ended up taking a lot of the people that would have bought at the launch, and I just spread them out over that pre-order phase, because I was breaking up who could buy at certain points. But yeah, so I think a lot of the leads I got, the 350, I think a lot of them were existing people that maybe already owned the record, and were opting in for the content. And so I think I kind of juiced a lot of my audience with the pre-order, and it kind of made the launch less emphasized or necessary, which is kind of cool. And now that launch can be used for other things, and I can use it in an evergreen context and take that content and use it for different retargeting or whatever. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that really, like, in terms of new customers from the launch, it was only 17 orders. If we look at the ROI, which I applied to everything that year, so the opt-ins, like all of the revenue that came through the pre-orders and the launch, if we apply that to the fan finder and the opt-in campaign, it was an ROI of 2.12, which is awesome.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Mhm.
And for your second album launch, it wasn't as big of a deal as the first one, right? It was more of like you did the pre-sale, and then like you didn't run as heavy of an opt-in campaign as you did the first time around.
I ran pretty much, well, yeah, I guess it was half the budget because I just did email, but it was the same thing. Like I ran $10 a day for, 33 days or so.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's awesome. And like you said, you see such a huge lift over the first launch that it's like, when's the next launch? It's going to probably be even better than this one.
I know, it's crazy to think about.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I saw very similar. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on the end of yours?
No, I think that's good. I'm intrigued about your numbers now.
Yeah, I saw a very similar lift as what you're talking about. Like, so we did our launch like we talked about. In between the first launch at the end of 2017 and this one that kicked off, the Fan Finder kicked off in August of 2020. So 3 years,
Yeah.
which is pretty crazy. I didn't know that once you have people on your list, you're supposed to continue to do stuff for them.
Yeah.
The only point of information that I had was from Circa that was like, hey, you should be sending a couple emails a month and continue to go live. So that's what we did. We would do weekly live videos once a week and send an email out every 2 to 3 weeks if something cool was happening.
Yeah.
And that's all the nurturing we did. We were doing touring and we had opportunities to go do some cool events and stuff like that. So there was that that outside bubble of like, okay, they're doing cool stuff, but there was really no new fan finders. There was no new music. There was nothing groundbreaking in terms of like, hey, look at all this cool content. So I feel like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity and a little bit of a situation of like stagnation for us because we made one sales promo over like 2.5 years, like didn't know that those were a thing. Didn't know that nurturing was a thing. You learn this stuff, but like that was a place where I thought that we had a missed opportunity, but also at least we were still reaching out and making people feel like we cared about it. We didn't just disappear. So there, I guess my point is like, even if you do the bare minimum, like we did between those launches, make sure that the people you get from your first launch never feel like they've been abandoned. Because I think what that did was lay the groundwork for our pre-sale, which granted, I didn't even think about doing until you suggested it to me.
Yeah.
You were like, so we're getting ready to launch our album. Jets was like, "Are you doing a pre-sale?" And I was already like up to here with the amount of stuff I had to try to figure out how to do. And I was like, oh, dang it, why would you suggest that?
I know.
And then I was like, that's actually a great idea. So we did a pre-sale and it was the same thing. Our list size was maybe a couple hundred bigger than it had been at the end of the first launch, like same group of people. And same exact structure as what Jesse did of the, hey, we're going to launch this. So we're going to give it to you in advance and leak it out. Our timeline was a little more compact in that I added at the last minute. So I think that people had 2 weeks to pre-order the album before it was like available as a part of the opt-in campaign. Or 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And let me pull this up. So from the pre-sale, we had about, I think, 1,200 people on our list, and 135 orders of the bundle, which was $16 per bundle. And then we had various other upsells. So we had a live CD and a t-shirt, kind of as the bump in the upsell. So we sold 135 core CDs as a part of the second pre-sale, 63 order bumps for the second CD, and then 32 t-shirts.
Nice.
So total pre-sale for us was $3,600 in product revenue.
Amazing.
Which was just like amazing. Like, again, we did the bare minimum, and all we did was make sure people felt cared about. And there you go, like emails and a couple little loose ads, and it works, which is less to say like, hey, do this structure, and more to say like, care about your people and make some kind of pre-sale offer.
Right. Make an offer that's aimed at your affirmation ascension. Don't just say like, right? Hey, everyone, the general fan,
Yeah.
do you want this normal version of my CD? Yeah.
Like I think it's a good thing too, real quick. Like the emails that we were sending out, that I'm pretty sure I were heavily influenced by you. They were like, hey, we're doing this thing. It's going live on this date, but you've been around since 2017, and we want you to have an opportunity to get this CD bundle first. It's limited quantity. There's 500 of them, so they might sell out. And if they do, I want to make sure you get a shot at them. And it comes with a CD. It comes with a couple free bonuses, and that's it. You know, if you want it, I just wanted to make sure you're aware of what's going on, and I'll remind you a couple times. But I just appreciate you, and that's
Right.
it. Not like buy this now. It's like, hey, I want you to know this is happening, kind of thing. So, I mean, I think that was the pre-sale was such a huge thing. I think that's what helped me click. Like, okay, wait, you should be making sales promos and nurturing people because they want your stuff. Like, as much as it's like music related, people also want to connect with you and have these physical tokens of your music. Like if you like bands, like look, I got the Dr. Dog shirt, you know, it's like I want their merchandise because they're important to me in some way.
Yeah.
So we did that. And then we repeated the process again, the exact same way we did it the first time with new assets. So it was same thing, like Fan Finder launches in August, album launch launches in October. Same timeline, like, you know, 3 months of the entire cycle. And it went well. We had a bigger budget this time around, which I think is sometimes could be a benefit to being in a band. Like I know you pretty much are supplying the funding for yourself. It's like a one guy project.
Right.
Like we had a bigger budget. We also have 5 guys in the group.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's kicking in. So, on the Fan Finder, we spent $4,200 on our Fan Finder over the course of like, 2 months or something like that. We were getting 10 cents per 75% view.
Perfect.
And it was like right on where we wanted it, generating a lot of comments, like shares. I actually think we might have spent a little too much on the Fan Finder. I think we might have overspent just like by watching the comments and stuff. We probably could have spent more around like 3,500, and I don't know if we would have lost much from that extra $700. But we ended up spending $4,200 on the Fan Finders, and then the opt-ins were going well. We were getting like $2 opt-ins, right? And then we ended up pivoting towards some cold audience retargeting, which ended up pulling us. Ultimately, we got 4,800 leads for
oh boy,
for $1.40 per lead.
Yeah, amazing,
awesome. And we spent $6,700 on that, which was like
wow.
So like our total spend was what, like around
10,000? Oh, 11.
11,000, something like that.
That cold lead campaign had a tripwire on it, right?
Yeah. So what we did was we had the cold lead thing going on. Our conversion rate was only 11% of which, conversions from the opt-in page to actual leads, which is pretty decent for cold traffic. What we allowed people to do was afterwards, it was like, hey, you signed up for this camp themed experience. And then it was like, we'll send you a passport, and I got the wristband on right there.
Oh, perfect.
A little festival wristband like that for free. And domestic paid $295, international paid $395. And for every order, we made profit like 30 cents on that.
Right.
Where we actually saw, and I was surprised, where we actually saw a good take rate was all these new cold leads coming in who would sign up, take this free thing, and then take our first album from 2017 as an order bump for $12.
Amazing.
And so we had that set up. So if they added that to the order, it increased the shipping. So we weren't losing out on shipping. But we, that was a huge plus for us. We ended up selling 905 of the wristbands in packets, which, was like 30 cents profit on each of those. Then we ended up selling 280 copies of our first CD for $3,300.
Incredible.
So it was very cool, but like what it I think speaks to is like that the opt-in was very branded and very like on like the wristband and stuff. It was very much like, okay, we're a folk band. We are targeting festival, like obviously our genre is like festival goers and like people like that.
Mm,
And the wristband and the passport really tied into it.
yeah.
But so we made $3,500 from this lead package thing, and we made $3,600 from the pre-sale. So that's like what, 7,000? Yeah. So it took a lot of pressure off of me because originally, you know, it's easy to look back and say like, oh, we spent 11,000 on this opt-in campaign and we almost made it all back. We ended up making back like 10.5 thousand.
Right.
It's easy to look back at it, but like there was a lot of pivoting going on where I was like, okay, you know, we should try this or this. And Cirque actually suggested the lead package thing.
Right.
And the pre-sale plus that allowed for me to be less stressed and be like, okay, at the end of this experience, we need to make back like 3 or 4. Yeah, this guy suggested the wristband.
Sometimes I do good.
Sometimes but it was like the pre-sale really allowed for less stress on the back end, which is what I think what you were pointing to. Like that pre-sale funded a lot of this exploration of these cold leads.
Great point. Yeah.
So it's like, as you get more of a fan base and you can start doing this stuff, it's almost like, okay, now you have the funding and now you don't have to self-fund. You can take what the pre-sale made and explore on your opt-ins and try to build from there.
Right.
So that's kind of our launch in a nutshell. It was the same thing. And then we ran them through. It was 10 days of content. We did a little interview series, all the downloads, all the bonus content, same stuff as the first time through. Sales were good on the end. Let me check it out. So we ended up selling at the very end. We sold 180 of the core CDs. And then we had 30% take rate on the order bump and the t-shirts as well.
Awesome.
Which was good. You know, definitely I think the cold traffic obviously impacted the sales rate. It was much lower. But it was good. So, and then all in all, at the end of the experience, we made about $5,500, like
Incredible
product revenue. So it was good. Yeah. Somebody said, did you guys sell something after the opt-in? Yeah. So after somebody opted in, what we did was say, hey, congratulations. Thanks for signing up. You've unlocked this special free bonus. It's a little packet that kind of walked you through the 10 days. It had lyrics, pictures, who we are, that kind of thing, and a wristband. And we did it as a free plus shipping and handling with an upsell for our first album. That was kind of our second launch in a nutshell. And all in all, we spent about, let's see. Okay. So this is what I put together for myself, which was more holistic, but things including our packaging materials and our fan finder shooting and the designing and stuff like that. We ended up spending total 13,000. Total expenses were 13,000, and then total income at the end was 11,000.
Right.
So that was like, you know, a minus 2,000 on what we spent, but our email list grew by 4,000 people.
Right.
Customer list grew by a lot. And then I think one thing we were going to wrap up with was what do we do post launch? And so something I've seen for us was the continued nurturing and sales offers where we did this launch. You know, if you look at just a strictly ad to sales ratio, we lost $500. If you look at like everything we spent on the launch versus everything we made back, we lost $2,000. So it's like, that sucks. We lost $2,000, you know, but it's also like, when you start to think about it more so, it's like, wait, we spent $2,000 to get 5,000 emails and like all this kind of stuff. And then the one thing I know we touched on was it was like, since this ended in October, we've been super engaged, making sure everybody is feeling like, you know, cared for. So we've started a Facebook group where we have 1,500 members now. Like we're posting in there 3-4 times a week, just checking in, welcoming people to the group as they come in, like really nurturing. We're sending out a couple emails every week. And we've been really keeping up with that. Mm-hmm. Since then, we did a Black Friday sale, which pulled in like $1,800 net, and we did
There you
this live stream a couple weeks ago, which pulled in like another $1,500 net, and it's just like it speaks to what we were talking about, where you say the patience in the building of what's going on is awesome, because you look at this October launch that we did in a nutshell, and it was a loss. You look at October through December, and it's like plus 1,500, 2,000 with a lot of potential for 2021, which I think is exciting, and probably a better way to start conditioning ourselves to look at it. Like as indies, it's like, it's not about the immediate return. It's about like the back end return and like the lifetime value.
Yeah, it's right. It's just like the important thing is that you operated a $9,000 revenue campaign. Like reaching that number takes a lot. And what you get out of a campaign scaled like that is you come out with an asset that's pretty firm. Like now just your floor for your for your future endeavors is higher, to where like this $1,500 there, $1,500 in this other thing. It's like that would not have been happening if you didn't push through and eke out this huge thing at a bit of a loss.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see some comments coming in here that are like understanding it. And I guess the one thing I want to stress here is this is not the place to start. Like, running an opt-in campaign to cold traffic with a free plus shipping and handling offer after the opt-in, like that's not the starting point. I feel like people are going to hear that and be like, oh, that's so sick, I'm going to do it. It's like that. Do the thing we were talking about for the first 30 minutes. That was like, remember these kind of, in retrospect, embarrassing launches with these hilarious videos of ourselves. Like that's where you start, and then you get to a point where you can do cool things and iterate on cool things. But yeah, that flow is right. Like the front end video, the permission opt-ins, the free shipping and handling offer, and then the experience in the emails. But what I don't want to get lost in either of our launches is how much we engage with people. Like it wasn't just like this evergreen thing for me, at least, where we turned it on, we ran people through it, and that's it. We were sending emails once they signed up before it launched, like weekly emails, giving them free content. Oh, I think we lost Jesse. Tis okay. I'll wrap it up here unless he pops back in. Up, he's coming. He's coming back. I got him back.
Okay.
All right.
Me, huh?
No, I was going to wrap it up real quick, but you're back. So we'll go for 6 more hours.
Perfect. Into it.
No, but it's like, it's all this stuff starts to build on itself time after time. And I think that's what's important. It's like engaging, nurturing people. And what I was going to say was like, we were sending emails once they opted into the launch of the experience. We were talking to them. We were sending them sneak peeks at songs. We had the Facebook group going. Like we were going live. It was like all these things where it wasn't just like do you like our music? It was like, hey, come be a part of this camp, this movement.
Yeah, and it's what we're going for is like these people dug us 2 or 3 years ago. And then 2 or 3 years later, we're back and we're like, hey, I have this whole other big thing coming. And to them, it's just like they can't contain themselves. The only way to get someone like that is by committing for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. It's like a pain in the butt, honestly.
Yeah.
Like when you first start, you don't want to do 100% effort for 5% coolness,
Yes. Yeah.
But it's like, if you give 100% effort when you're getting a small group of people caring, then 2-3 years down the road, you give the same effort and you get 50% more people caring. And it's
right.
exponentially growing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Let's see. I see there's a couple questions in here that probably we can touch on. One, which I think is good, is what were you doing during your album launch to get fans to interact with your daily content leading up to the album? So for us, it was live videos, it was emails, and it was a Facebook group where we were posting, getting people excited.
Yeah. I always do pre-launch emails. So if I'm doing an opt-in phase for a month, I have 8 or so emails pre-scheduled to where they'll join and maybe they're jumping in at email 5. Like maybe they're only getting the last 4 of those pre-launches. But the point is by the time they opt in, every 4 days, they're going to get something from me talking about, what's to come and why it's important and related, stories and content and stuff.
I think pre-scheduling those is super smart too. We do the same thing because it takes it off of your mind. Like you're done, you've got it planned. And we did a thing where we dripped out singles from the album in advance of the launch, where it was like 3 different songs from the album got sent out in advance, and people would miss it and be like, hey, I missed this song. Where is it? And you just send them the link. So it's like, if they care, they want to know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. There's some more comments coming in here. One was, how did you make money from the live stream that I referenced? We did that by extensively nurturing people over 3 years and then doing a cool live stream. But more technically based, we worked with a company that helped us accept donations. So that was kind of how we did that. What would you do if Facebook was acting weird? I'm not sure what that means.
Like if, for example, like this iOS thing makes Facebook ads a lot harder to run, would we use Snap or YouTube? Yeah, I think that if Facebook just shut down all of a sudden, I wouldn't panic. Like it would be like, wow, this sucks and this is crazy. But I would just kind of be like, all right, well, let's check out some other stuff.
Exactly. You just pivot. But also, if Facebook just shut down today, we both have an email list that is not dependent on Facebook. Like the pre-sale we were talking about, 90% of that was through emails. Like, so that's the benefit of building this list. Let's see. I see 2 more good ones to touch on real quick. One was, we kind of touched on, it says you lost money, but when do you profit? And that's just through the follow-up, nurturing, and sales promos. And then I think a good one that really, I feel like we've encapsulated the idea of you start at 0 and then you just slowly do more and more until all of a sudden you have the second album launched and it's like, whoa, that's really cool. And you're excited for future stuff.
Yeah, I think one thing that's missing is like,
want to get on here?
I think one thing that's missing is that they don't know like what your experience is between these events or after. So that might fill in some of the gap of like, okay, but how do you monetize all of this? Like the results you got from this,
Yeah. So, I mean, in terms of like our experience, it was just slowly growing and doing trainings and learning
or rather like all the shows and like the merch promotions in between monthly sales promotions.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Well, that's what I was touching on though. Like we didn't actually even do any sales promos between the first launch and the second one. Really, we did one.
Oh,
So that's why I'm like, we just did email nurturing and we did shows, but that's where you do want to be more engaged.
Gotcha.
And then probably dive into trainings. But I think a good like final question that was asked early on was like, how do you guys go about brainstorming marketing ideas and finding time to come up with fresh ideas? That's just like a great forward going question.
Yeah. I think the fan base that you start to garner tells you a lot of what you need to know. Like I catch wind of what my people are like, and it just seems kind of obvious where I would go. Like they're into gaming. They're LGBTQ friendly, right? There's like a whole realm of culture to expand upon there. They're creative. A lot of them are artists, whether it be musical or visual. There's a lot of stuff that I could just spin off there of like, oh, what would they like? And that's kind of my first thing. What would they like? And what sounds fun for me to kind of press on out of what they like? Because chances are that overlap should be pretty clear because you're attracting these people and they probably are a bit like you.
Yeah. Do you ever, here's a good last question. Do you ever set aside time to do brainstorming or planning, whether for sales promos or like, here's what I want to accomplish in 2021, like that kind of stuff where you're just doing creative brainstorming?
Well, I think we are actually privileged because we basically have built in every day we come to work, we're like inundated with amazing ideas.
Yeah.
So I don't have to, like, we always are meeting up and getting these going. So I guess if for someone that obviously doesn't have that, it's like if you have study buddies in the group, you could plan calls and just be like, have a brainstorm for an hour. That's basically what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, like you said, we're lucky because we jump onto a call and Gracie's like, hey, it'd be cool if we infuse smells into our next album launch.
I know.
That's a genius idea.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good way is like get other indies in the group and brainstorm. Or if you're in a band with people, like sit down and brainstorm. We did for our album launch. There's 5 of us in our group. We were like, okay, well, who have we seen at shows the last 2 years, and who do we want to try to appeal to, and what kind of stuff do we like? And like, I think if you just find somebody to talk with and you do set aside time to think about what, like even broad, like what do I want to accomplish in 2021, or what do I want the theme of this album to be? Like if you take time to think about those things, I found it helpful to set aside an afternoon to do that. Like actually turn off the phone, whatever, think about it, get some ideas down. And I think it makes it easier to work towards a more tangible thing if you have a little brainstorming session early on to get lined up. So I think like finding somebody in the group or finding a bandmate, something like that, I think is super beneficial so that you can make the most out of upcoming launches or just 2021 in general. So
no doubt. Nice.
Well, I feel like we could probably talk for many more hours. So maybe we'll do a part 2 follow-up at some point.
Love it.
It has been a blast and an honor, and hopefully a good wrap up to 2020 for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for watching. Thanks, Ed, for working with me on this. It was a fun one.
And thank you for just being a rock star.
You're welcome.
All right. See you guys.
See ya.